What's up, everybody? My name's Toby, and you're listening to the Diverse Podcast. Do hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching this video. Bang the like button as well, and we'll keep this content coming. Do head over to wearediverse.io if you're looking for a role right now. We've got lots of free resources and opportunities with inclusive employers. Hope you enjoyed this episode. So welcome everyone. This is the Diverse Podcast. My name's Toby and I'm here with Tito today, and we're going to be talking about how you can get a summer internship at a special company in the finance world. So welcome everyone. So Tito, I'll send it over to you. Give us a bit of background into you, what you're studying and where you're going to be working as well.
Hey guys, my name is Tito Otegbeye and I'm a second year history and politics student at the University of Warwick. So I applied to Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is a leading financial institution, and it sort of just delivers broad financial services across investment banking, risk management, consumer banking, and human capital, diversity in general, and inclusion. I've had a pretty interesting and long internship application process, but it's been fun. It's been fun overall. It's been a huge learning process about myself, about what I could do, about how far I could push myself, and how much drive I had to actually want to get an internship and want to actually succeed. So it was really eye-opening for myself as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And historically, very difficult place to land a job. And, I love doing this podcast because every week I'm getting to talk to you amazing young professionals who are able to crack these application processes. So I'm excited to learn, how you did that and, share that advice with others as well. But just for starters, why Goldman Sachs then? What was it that stood out to you about them? Because it's by the sounds of it, and you gave a very good explanation, they pretty much do everything, when it comes to finance, right? Personal business. And so what stood out about them? Why did you decide to work there?
Yeah. So I first started getting interested in Goldman Sachs from the first lockdown. And during the lockdown, I went for like a series of networking events, and the one that made me realize that, I want to apply to Goldman Sachs, and this will be potentially my first choice because I had other places that I liked. It was just the way I witnessed the relationships between the recruiters and how comfortable they were pitching the company, the ethos of the company, and how great the company was. Because, when you go for some networking events, it's pretty much always the same thing. They say the same thing. Oh, yeah, they introduce the company. They say a bit about diversity and inclusion. You know what you're expecting when you go to a networking event, when you go to a networking event for a specific company trying to, recruit interns and students and whatever. But for this particular, it was from the Black Students Network, and they partnered up with Goldman. And it was just interesting to see the relationship. It was a very comfortable way to introduce the company, and that made me feel comfortable. It made me feel like a part of the company as well, just seeing the dynamics between the workers from different stages across the firm, and seeing that comfortable, relaxed relationship just made me want to dive into more what they would offer me. And then that led me into researching more about the company, I did a lot, extensive research on Goldman. I pretty much mastered their whole website, their whole About Us website. And I was particularly interested in diversity and inclusion. And that's one of my top priorities when I'm applying for a job or for an internship. It's like I always have to tick it first. And I'm very peculiar about what I want to see in how a company delivers their diversity and inclusion and what they actually do. Because I it was a goal for me to put myself in an environment that is actually proactive in ensuring that they're being inclusive and being diverse and actually, accommodating underrepresented candidates. And Goldman for me really, really ticked that box, because it wasn't like they just put what they were doing on their website. It actually showed what they were doing, how they did it, the results of what they were doing, and also feedback from all the people that they were doing the things for. So one certain initiative was the 1 Million Black Women Initiative, and where they support Black businesses led by Black women. And all of these things just, it just kind of made me tick the box as I was going. And then I fell in love with a particular division called the Human Capital Management division. And that's basically all about, diversity and inclusion, employee relations, trying to build up the brand and its people. Because for Goldman, they really, really emphasize the importance of their people and how much power their people hold. And for me, that was just the most important thing for me. Ensuring that I place myself in a position where I will actually be recognized as my authentic self, as a person, as a valuable asset to the company, and ensuring that they're also giving me ways, as much as I am giving them what I can give them, they're giving back to me, and ensuring that I'm improving myself in general. So all of those things made me fall in love with Goldman and with that specific division as a whole. But yeah, so that's how I ended up wanting to apply for HCM, and my whole application process.
And before you go into the application process, I just want to touch on that, because I think you've raised a really important point here.
Yeah.
And you're clearly really passionate about diversity and inclusion, which is great. You're in the right place. And I can see exactly why you're going to excel in HR. This is what I really like about Gen Z. I think in general, very socially conscious and looking for these sorts of things, which is really important. I think because of the events of last year, even more so, I think young candidates are mindful of where we're going to work based on what are they actually doing. And we're kind of in a world where lots of companies are putting out diversity statements, but not doing anything about it.
Exactly.
And so if as an organization like Goldman Sachs, you're able to have real tangible action, and in this case it was kind of embedding with a community at university of Black students and kind of giving value to them, creating networking opportunities. And you've mentioned the investments and that kind of thing they do as well, which is fantastic. So that's, I guess, the first lesson for employers. This is something we value. So don't just sort of put out just a statement.
Exactly.
Let's have some action as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm so glad you're looking for these things, and shout out to Goldman for doing that well, because now you've got a great candidate. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So we'll come back around to that, and maybe you've got some other thoughts for employers, and obviously it's going to be part of your role as well. So let's have a bit of a chat about that. But before we do, let's dive into the application process. So what were the steps, and how did you really excel at each point?
Okay, so for Goldman, so one reason why I really, really liked Goldman was that the application process was pretty easy, unlike the other ones. So you don't have to do any like quantitative reasoning tests, no situational judgment tests, none of that. All you have to do is write a 300-word cover letter and send in your CV, and that's the first stage done. So no online test. And for me, I really, really suck at online tests. I'm really bad. I was just like, okay, thank God they don't do online testing. Thank God it's just a cover letter and a CV, and that's fine. So that was a really, really high point for me, because I was like, okay, I'm just going to spend some time ensuring that my cover letter is on point and my CV is on point. And
what did that mean to you, getting your cover letter and your CV on point? Was that research? Did you get people to look at it? What did you do there?
So my CV, I started writing my CV in first year of uni. Maybe I should have started earlier, but started writing it in first year. Um, then when it came to second year, that's when I was really serious about wanting to apply for internships. So I had a lot of help from previous interns. This girl called Casilda. I had her sort of like mentor me. She looked at my CV. We had extensive meetings trying to ensure that I put in all the details. So in terms of your CV, I think that what would make you really stand out is your work experience. It doesn't have to be actual like work, like internships. You don't need internships really. It's just a thing of what have you done, whether it be hobbies, whether it be extracurricular activities. If you add all of that in and show what skills you've learned, what transferable skills you'll be able to implement in your job, as in your role as an intern, that's what they're looking for. And ensuring that you have all the, it has to sort of be simultaneous. So I was applying for HCM, so I made sure that I included a lot of things that had to do with ensuring the prosperity of people and the enhancement of people in general. So I was the president of Work Nigerian Society. I put that in as part of my work experience. I put all the transferable skills that I gained from them, all the skills that I had learned. And also in your CV, it would be good to this is when extensive research of the company and what they're looking for in a candidate comes in, because you have to include all of these punchy words like good communication, and they would say it in their website on what they're looking for. It's literally on one of their banners. So it would say what they're looking for, and read that and then match that with all of the extracurricular activities, work experience that you've done, and then put it into one sentence. So I was president of Nigerian Society. I engaged and organized student events, which enabled me to get a lot of multitasking, enabled me to improve my multitasking skills and my team working skills and my leadership skills. So all of those things, because I haven't really had, this is my first proper internship. All I had was just mini work experiences and extracurricular activities. And that's what I was kind of worried about. I thought they were looking for like internships at banks, actual professional HR services, but that's not what they're looking for. They just want to see what you are, what you do on a normal day, on a normal basis, as a university student, and what you can offer them from all of those things that you've learned. So I put all of that in my work experience. So just making sure you have all of these punchy words and match them to your extracurricular activities. That would be great. And also your hobbies as well. Feel free to just insert any of those, anything. You don't have to be super professional and say, oh yeah, I learned how to, if you learned how to code, that's fine, but I didn't learn how to code. I just put I'm interested in like makeup and skincare, so just, and traveling and cooking. So all of those things that actually show you, because your CV again is just about you. It's not about what you think they want to what you think they want to see from you. So I spent a lot of time tweaking my CV, ensuring that all of the details were, coherent with each other. So yeah, that was.
And
that.
Is there anything you think they look for specifically at Goldman Sachs that you tried to identify in your CV? Are there any like values that really stand out?
Yeah. So for Goldman, they're looking for people with good initiatives, people with drive, people with good communication, people who have a genuine interest in innovation, because they're genuinely just a company that's always driving towards looking long term, looking at the future, whether it be in investment banking, whether it be the future of people in general, the future of employment, looking for students that have that drive to promote innovation and improvement in the financial industry in general. And the financial industry is broad. So mine was mostly interested in people and enhancing and empowering people. And that comes with diversity and inclusion. They're also looking for people with good communication, just people who are just themselves, people who are really authentic, because not people who try to fit into something that they're not. I know it sounds very cliche, but that's generally what they're looking for, being people who are authentic, and people who can actually, as their authentic selves, bring something to the table in a way that the company can benefit from. And that really has to show in your CV. And that's why I said, just feel free to just be comfortable and just to put in things that really are really personal to you. And again, that's what you have to put in your cover letter, because your cover letter is only 300 words. So I had to make sure that I made my cover letter really personal, and really authentic. Can't actually remember what I wrote in my cover letter, but I know that I made it really personal to me, as a Black woman. And I made sure that I included something about my background, something, because I'm Nigerian. I included my interest in empowering Black women, Black people in general, and how Goldman fit with my interests and my aspirations in life. And so I used, again, if you go on their website, I pretty much tried to match the website and what they were looking for a human capital management prospective intern, and put that in my CV, but made it personal to me. So it wasn't like I was just copying from the website, because if they will know if you're just directly copying from their website. So you have to make it really personal to you, but also make sure that you're also saying what you can give back to them, as much as what they're looking for in you, and how basically just proving to them that you are the person that they want. And use like a personal story if you can. It doesn't have to be personal, but it was personal to me because as a Black person entering the financial industry. But yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. And I think this is where some people go wrong from the conversation I'm having with candidates. They kind of get in a zone of thinking, oh, what do they want me to say, or in the interview or in an application, versus what is actually the truth to you. Like, I'll ask a candidate, oh, why do you want to work at this company?
Yeah.
And the answer will be quite generic, and anyone could say it. And then I would say, okay, let's not do a mock interview right now, just as a person to person. Why do you want to work there? And they'll give an amazing answer. And it's like, that's what you need to be saying,
Exactly.
Make it personal.
Exactly.
Tell them your story. That's what makes you stand out.
Because as much as you go to these like networking events, they pretty much tell you the same thing, but you honestly just have to take the risk and they always say be yourself, but be yourself might sound, oh, here we go again, like, what do you mean by be yourself? Because you might think that they want you to really be yourself, but at the same time, you also have to fit into what they want. But you have to do a bit of both. You have to have that balance, be your authentic self, but also ensure that you're the person that they want, or you're fitting into their image of what they're actually looking for an intern. And if that fits with your authentic self, then that company is right for you. Because every company has a different things of what they're looking for from people. But if you see a company and they tell you about what they want, you just have to find aspects of you that match that. And when you do, then they will know that, okay, yeah, this is the candidate for me. So it's also that balance, that personal, authentic balance, but also ensuring that they're for you and you're for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So we've now put in our CV, our cover letter, we've got through to the next stage. Where do we go from there?
Okay. Oh, I even forgot to say prior to even sending off my CV and cover letter. So I did so from the networking event that I went to, they were all about, so they were that Goldman, that the Black Student Network partnered up with Goldman. They were all about taking risks. And they just said, oh, take risks. And I'm like, really? Like, what's risk taking? And then they were just like, just feel free to email the CEO of Goldman, he will reply. So I noted that down. I noted his email down and everything after the networking event. And then October, when I went to, because I think the networking event was around August, not so sure, but before October, and I started applying in October. And I was just like, okay, so before I dive into actually applying, I'm gonna, just take the risk and email the CEO of Goldman. So I did. I emailed him. And then the next day, I opened my email and I noticed that I had gotten an email from a recruiter from HCM, from the HCM department. And I was like, oh my God, like, they actually replied me. But I mean, I don't think it was the actual CEO that replied me. I think that they obviously some way my email got forwarded to the London office. And then Magda, the recruiter, got in contact with me and she was like, hi, Tito. I heard that you were interested in HCM at Goldman. That's really nice. That she would like to call me to talk to me more about the company and the role and the whole application process. And I was like, oh, great. Like, this is amazing because I actually took that risk and it paid off. Like they got in contact with me. So from the get-go, I had like my foot in the door. I had someone that I could connect with or ask questions. So that, I had someone who actually knew my name or I had a bit of a relationship with. So if I needed anything or potentially they could be my interviewer, I would have that rapport with them already. So that was just great. So that risk taking really paid off for me. So that's one advice I would give. Just send as much emails as you can. I sent out emails to all the companies that I applied to and they got back to me. They actually got back to me and they were willing to talk to me. They were willing to call me and, talk to me about the company and the role I wanted. So don't be scared. I would say don't be scared to email, because don't be scared to have the actual drive and initiative to get in contact with the company, because they will reply you. And if they don't reply you, just keep emailing and emailing and emailing. Just disturb them. You just have to disturb them, because at one point someone will email you and someone will see that you actually have that drive, and that will pay off in the long run. So that's how I had that whole connection with Magda. And then that's when I started. She gave me great insight on how to write the CV, how to write the cover letter, especially what they want, the whole steps. So why the company, why you, and what you can offer, something around those lines. So yeah, she gave me advice on that, and then that's what I implemented. And then in my CV and cover letter prior to submission. So yeah, so
I can see why they hired you. They just wanted you to stop emailing them and come work with them. But that's really good stuff. I didn't know you could just email the CEO of Goldman. I might try that myself as well. I've not tried that.
I didn't know that either. I mean, they said you could, so I was like, okay, I just will. And then someone got in contact with me. So it was really good. It was really nice to see that. Surprising as well. And I think that gave me the boost to email a lot more people, and I actually got some good news in return, because they got back to me and they were willing to actually help me through the application process. So take that initiative to just email. Like, emailing goes a long way, whether it be emailing, whether it be calling. Just do whatever you can if you really want to get an internship at that company. They will reply you because they want people as well. It's not like it's just a one side unreciprocated thing. they want to talk to you as well, and they want to employ you. So yeah.
That's
So
fantastic advice. So, and anyone listening, pause the podcast, go write your email to the CEO of wherever you want to work. I mean, it really, really does make a difference for a few reasons. I mean, that gave you a chance to talk to someone who works there, so they can give you advice on each stage.
yeah,
So you're much more prepared when you're in the process.
yeah,
But then that also shows that initiative and the drive that they're actually looking for at Goldman. And
yeah,
they think, oh, if someone's going to be that persistent, if someone's going to think outside the box like that, or go the extra mile, they're going to do the same thing in the job when we hire them as well. So this is the perfect person to hire. So definitely go the extra mile and do that if you're really serious. I mean, some people say they really want the job, but they're not willing to go through all of these things.
yeah,
And I also like what you added there, which is an understanding that you want them, but they want you as well. You know, it's a two-way street. That should give you a bit more confidence.
exactly.
Like Goldman, UBS, HSBC, Barclays, they're all trying to get the best students and grads who are definitely listening to this podcast. And so you've got a lot to bring to the table, a lot to offer. So that should bring you a lot of confidence. So you're picking them, not just the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to a time where, let's say you have offers from Barclays and NatWest or Goldman and JP Morgan or something like that, they would try and fight for you, because now you have really good companies. And then when you have those two options and you're conflicted, you'd obviously have to inform them, and then they will try and give you as much information to pick them. So when it comes to that, they can tell that you're a sought after candidate, and they will do everything in their power to get you. So it's sort of, they're competing against each other as well. So you have that upper hand in that as well. So it's always good to have someone you can talk to in all the companies you're applying for, if you can as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And Tito, can I ask what kind of thing did you put in the email? Because I guess people will now be listening and thinking, okay, I understand I have to network, but what does that mean? What kind of thing do I say in my message?
Yeah, so it was a really short email. So I just said, hi, David Solomon. I think his name is David Solomon. I said, hi, David Solomon. My name is Tito. I'm a second-year history and politics student at the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. I am very interested in Goldman Sachs, more specifically the Human Capital Management Division in the London office. I am currently in the process of applying, and I just wanted to ask if I can get some insight and get some more advice on the culture of the company and the ethos of the company, and just applications in general, and what you're looking for in candidates or prospective employees for Goldman Sachs. It would be really nice to hear from you and to get some advice and insights on the company from you, if that would be possible. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. Thank you very much, Tito Otegbeye. And that was pretty much around literally what I just said. So it's short and sweet. Just say who you are, what you're looking for, and what you want from them. And then voila, I just got an email the next day from a recruiter from Goldman, and then she pretty much just answered all the questions that I wanted that I put in the email. So that's pretty much it.
Voila, yeah. So super polite, super gracious, but simple, to the point, and probably importantly, you're not asking for a job. You're asking, you're showing you're keen and eager by asking for advice and insights and that kind of thing. So I think that's super clear. You even rattled it off so other people can learn from that as well. Yeah. So amazing. So we've networked, we've got someone else to kind of contribute to looking at our CV and our cover letter. So we're in a really good space. We've done a bit of research. Now we've applied and we've got through to the interview stage.
Yes. So there are two interview stages. There is the pre-recorded interview, which is a higher view interview. So they have preset questions where you just video yourself, camera on, camera off, and questions pop up. So I think one question was, why Goldman? Why Goldman? So you have at least, I think I had up to 5 questions. Can't remember, but 5-6 questions, depending on which company you're applying for. It differs. I had around 5 questions, and the first one was why Goldman. I answered. So prior to the pre-recorded interview, you obviously have to prepare in case you do get an interview, in case you do move on to the next stage. So for my preparation process for that, I literally, again, this is when research comes in handy. I had pages and pages of like Microsoft Word documents just detailing all the potential questions that I could get for my pre-recorded interview, and also talking to, if you have contacts with people who applied to Goldman last year or prior to this year's internship, talk to them as well. So I talked to as I said before, a girl called Casilda, and she gave me like a list of questions that they asked her and they could potentially ask you for your pre-recorded interview. It's mostly, your pre-recorded interview is mostly just situational, nothing too technical. So I did research, had a list of questions, why situational judgment questions on Goldman. So why Goldman? And then I had a list of like situational judgment questions. So tell me about a time where you've led a team or something like that. And I would come up with situations. I just came up with random situations, whether it be tell me about a time you've been conflicted and how did you solve it. And then I would write a few lines on that, and then I would practice. And one thing I would say is you can use the same situation for different questions, but just tweak it a bit and say what skills you got from it and say what you learned from that, because that's what they're looking for. Can't remember a specific question, but I think I'll just make one up. One question was, tell me about a time where you've been conflicted, or tell me about a time you showed your problem-solving skills. And then I talked about, and then they would also, in the higher view, in the pre-recorded interview, they will also give you, which makes it easier for you, they'll also give you like sub points that you could address. So if it's tell me about a time where you solved the problem, they would say describe the problem, what you've learned from the problem, and what skills have you gained, or what skills can you implement that into your job, something around those lines. So they will give you sub points to help you answer your question. So when I saw those sub points, it was easier for me to sort of direct my answers and actually addressing those points. You actually have to address those points so they know that, okay, you're actually answering the questions rather. So that was really helpful as well. So they will give you pointers. So again, they're trying to help you. They're trying to ensure that you're answering the question to the best of your abilities. So it's not like they're trying to like put you off. They're actually helping you by giving you that sort of like expo. So yeah, that was basically that. It was, I would say that for me, the higher view, the pre-recorded interview was a lot more daunting than the actual in-person interview, because it's like you're not talking to anyone. It's just you're just recording yourself, and it's really, really nerve-wracking because that's your first interview. So you can be slightly thrown off, but again, you can turn your camera off. But I turn my camera on. But it's really nerve-wracking because you're not talking to anyone. You're not seeing that emotional response. So it's like you're just talking to your computer, and you're just like in your mind, you're like, am I answering the question? Because when you're in a normal interview, you can see, they can nod their head, and that can give you like, the confidence or something because you're seeing that reaction. But it was a lot harder for me, I would say. And also the questions are timed. You have Oh, how
It's
many?
usually 1 minute.
Yes,
Typically, I've heard, for higher view, and you can see as well usually who is using
yeah,
higher view, and you'll get
yeah,
an email and it'll be an
yeah,
invite to an higher view assessment. So usually you get 1 minute. They show you the question, couple
yes,
of points.
yes,
You've got a bit of time to plan what you're going to say, and
yes,
then there's 1 minute to actually give
yes,
your answer. So it's
exactly.
very short and
Yeah,
to
it's
the
very
point. Not
short. It's very short. 1 minute literally feels like 5 seconds because you can literally see the timer go back, 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 down, down, down. So it's nerve-wracking. That's why I said it's a lot harder than the in-person interview because you're not timed in that. You can talk as much as you want, but for this one, you literally just have to make sure you're just going straight to the point and actually answering the questions. And if it's situational questions, actually ensuring that you give a situation and ensure you're saying what you learned from it. Just be quick, be confident, and just go straight to the point. If not, if you're waffling, you're just not going to have enough time. You're just not going to have enough time. And that comes with practice. That comes with timing yourself. I did a lot of questions in 1 minute, trying to see how quick I could talk in 1 minute, quick but clear. So I think GCSE drama and A-level drama helped me a lot in this because there was a way I could talk quickly, say as much as I could, but also clearly as well. So yeah, so I was really thankful for my A-level drama. But yeah, that's what I would say. And for questions like, because it will come up, for questions like why Goldman, again, they're just generic questions that you just have to prepare for. So maybe why Goldman, what separates Goldman from its competitors. So I had all of these punchy questions that I knew would come up. Why you? All of these questions. So if you just Google common Goldman Sachs questions or common interview questions. You can make it specific to the company you're applying for because it's all over Google, it's all over YouTube, especially. And YouTube is particularly helpful because there was this particular channel where the guy actually gave you sample answers from previous interns that were successful, and you could copy that if you want, or you could copy the template, which is what I did, but obviously make it personal to you. As well, because people are different, obviously. So yeah, that's what I did. So all of these questions like why Goldman, why the company, what separates the company, what why the division you're applying for most especially. That's what I got. And there was this particular question that threw me off towards the end of my interview, my higher view interview. That's the pre-recorded one, which I thought it was the very last question, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm definitely not gonna get this internship now because I sort of messed up. But it doesn't matter if you mess up, and that's the most important thing. I remember for this particular question, it was if Goldman was to add a new division to human cap. Oh, I can't remember. If Goldman was to add a new division, what will be HCM's role in ensuring the success of that particular division? And when I saw that question, I was like, oh gosh, what am I gonna say? So it's okay to pause for a bit. So I remember pausing for a bit, and it was weird because my camera was on. So I remember just pausing for a bit, just trying to relax, maybe like for 5 seconds. You don't have to answer the question straight away, because if you don't think before you answer the question, you're just gonna waffle. So I had to just pause, and then even though I was waffling a bit, but I made sure that they were basically asking what the role of HCM was. They were basically asking that. So I talked about they would be HCM's role. HCM would be particularly interested in ensuring diversity and inclusion for employment for that specific division. Something around those lines, ensuring welfare benefits for the people working in that division. So something around that. So they were basically asking what the role of your division was. So yeah, you just have to just be calm. I know that it's easier said than done. Definitely, it's definitely nerve-wracking, but the more you do it, I did maybe like 2 higher view interviews prior to Goldman. So I got into that routine. But it was particularly nerve-wracking for Goldman because I wanted Goldman. Goldman was my first choice. So I wanted to make sure that I did as well as I could. But it's okay if you mess up at the end of the day. They just want to know that, they're interested. You're actually interested in them as well. So yeah, what I would say is practice questions, all the common questions that you could potentially get. They all have a template. So, and that's when, if you talk to other interns or just interns in general, it doesn't have to be specific to that company. They would let you know about how to answer interview questions, like situational questions, and the normal why the specific company and whatnot. But yeah, that was the higher view interview stage.
Fantastic. Lots of great advice there. And yeah, you really broke it down well and to the point. I really like that. And a lot of the situational questions you can kind of predict almost from the job description. So as you said, if they've mentioned leadership or analytical skills or problem solving, chances are they might ask you, tell me about a time when you've shown those skills. And to your point, you want to have a couple of examples, 3 or 4 examples, work, passion projects, uni that you could pull these from, because you've only got so much experience, right? So you just pick your 3 or 4.
You can use the same experience but for different questions. You just have to just tweak it to fit that question, and obviously say the transferable skills you got from them, or just make up scenarios. Honestly, I remember on the spot I made up scenarios that
incriminated. This is going to be seen by the whole world.
Specific questions.
And use the STAR technique as well: situation, task, action, result, and review.
STAR technique.
That's how you smash it. Tell me about a time when. So good stuff. Okay, so we smashed the higher view. Then are we on to the final stage then, in-person interview? Yeah.
Yes. So this was. So for the preparation for the in-person interview, I pretty much just used the same document. So I had a document with potential questions that I could get asked. And again, I talked to other people that went through the final stage. So the final stage how long was it? I think it was about 2 hours. No, definitely wasn't 2 hours. Maybe like an hour and a half. Yes, because it was 30 minutes. I had 3 sets of interviews. So it was obviously on Zoom. I had one 30-minute interview, another 30-minute interview, and then another 30-minute interview. So it was very, very long. I remember I was just sweating the whole time. It was very long, but it went quickly. Maybe because I kind of like enjoy talking to my interviewers. I think that's another thing why I particularly like Goldman as well, that employee relation and how comfortable they make you feel. So for my first interview, it's a lot more technical. So they asked me a lot more questions about my role and so the role I was applying for. So HCM, because HCM has, within HCM, there are different sort of subdivisions within HCM. So there's compensation, there's welfare and benefits, there's employee relations, there's diversity and inclusion. So they asked me more about obviously they asked me questions like, why Goldman? So they will repeat questions. So that's why it's good that you had already had all of these potential questions that they could ask you. So it was also a mix of technical and situational as well. So they asked me, my first interview was very technical. It was about why HCM, what division within HCM are you most interested in? So that question sort of threw me off a bit, but I think one thing that particularly made me stand out was the fact that even though I got thrown off, I still wanted to answer the question. So there was that question. So it was, what aspect of HCM are you most interested in? And I was like, I know that I practiced this question. I know that I researched and I know the subdivisions within HCM, but my mind just went blank for that particular minute. And then I was like, could you please repeat the question? And then she was like, what aspect of HCM are you most interested in? So, and then she sort of answered the question. She was like, there's diversity and inclusion. And then I was like, oh, I was like, oh, it's okay. I can answer this question. Like, I will answer this question. So I made sure I answered the question. I made sure I didn't let her sort of finish and say, oh, okay, so let's move on to the next question. I was like, she can't move on with this question. So I was like, I'm going to answer this question. So I was just like, oh, no. Oh, right. I can answer that question. And then I answered the question. So I think that really pushed me up a bit, because if I had just let her say, oh yeah, there's this, because she also said, if you don't know it, you could do a bit more research. And I was like, wait, no, because I know that I did so much research on this, so I will answer the question. So I was like, it's fine, like I can definitely answer the question. And I was determined to answer the question, and I did. And then I could tell that she was like satisfied, because she was like, okay, like she didn't sort of back off. So when it comes to times where you're sort of thrown up with these technical questions on the particular division you're applying for, they can give you a bit of expo, but you just have to make sure that regardless, you just answer the question, whether or not you're repeating what they said, but show that you have that commitment and show that you have that drive to revive yourself, even though you're sort of thrown off, because sometimes they can stop you when you're talking, and that happened to me quite a lot, because sometimes I can talk I can talk a lot, and I could go like off point, and then they would try and like stop you to bring you back to answer the question. But that's fine, because they're only just trying to help you just answer the question. They're not trying to throw you off. They're just trying to stop you from waffling and answering the question. And that sort of helped me just snap back into just going straight to the point. And when I did, it was clear that they were satisfied with my question. So when you're thrown off, it's okay. You might waffle, but that's okay, depending on the type of person you are. But if they stop you, just try and go straight to the point. If there's a specific answer if there's a specific question you can't answer, you can try your best to answer the question, or politely say that, this is something that you'd be willing to research more, give more time to, type of thing. But for that specific question, I was like, no, like I'm determined to answer this question, and I will. So we're not gonna move on to the next question until I answer this question. So I think that gave me a bit of a boost. So yeah, the first interview, first 30 minutes, was a lot more technical, and then the second interview, the other 30-minute, was a bit of technical, but more situational as well. So in each of the interviews, they'll ask you similar questions, so you can repeat yourself. So they asked me again in the next interview, because they're different sets of interviewers as well. I had two interviewers in each 30-minute meeting. So each of the interviewers want to know why Goldman. So they'll pretty much ask you the same thing, and why HCM as well. They will ask you that. They'll ask you why the specific division. Because at the end of the day, they're all going to come together and collate and talk about the different interviewees. So they asked me the same thing. So I pretty much, and from the first interview, I was a lot more confident as I was going on. I was a lot more comfortable as well. And they did really make me feel comfortable, which was a good thing for me as well. And they smiled a lot. It's good to have really, really nice interviewers. Like I prayed for that, and I got it. So it really helps you to see the reactions when you're talking. That's why I said the higher the interview was a lot more daunting than this one, because you actually had an actual interpersonal reaction from what you were saying. So yeah, this one was a bit technical, but also they asked me some situational questions, like tell me about a time you've led a team, or tell me about a time you showed good interpersonal skills, things related to the job, to my division as well. And they also asked me some lightweight questions like, what's your favorite podcast, or what podcast would you recommend? So, just lightweight questions to help you get into the interview and the gritty questions. And I forgot to say, if you in each of your interviews, you will get a chance, maybe 5 minutes after they finish asking you questions, to ask them questions. And this is so important, that you ask questions. Like, don't say, oh no, it's fine, I don't have any questions. Have a list of, and I did this the night before, have a list of questions, maybe 10 questions max, that you could ask them. And because this is a time for you to grill them as much as they grilled you. So get a chance to know why so I asked a lot about why they chose that role, asked a lot about why Goldman. I asked what's their day-to-day role as a member of the HCM division. So questions like that, and they wanna know that you're interested in them as employees as well of the company, and the company on a broader scale as well. And so it's very, very important that you ask questions. Can be very, very minor questions. Doesn't have to be detailed. Like, it can be, why do you like your job, or why do you like Goldman, or it can be very tailored to whatever you're interested in, or anything specific about their role. So it's very, very, I would stress this, it was very, very, very important that you ask questions. And they will give you time for that. They will ask you, do you have any questions? So again, they want you to show that you have initiative, and you have the drive, and you have the genuine interest in knowing more about them and knowing more about the company, as much as they want to know more about you. So yeah, that was my second interview. And then my third interview was, I think, the most situational. I got the most situational questions from that interview. So they were very interested in getting to know how I would react in certain situations and what I would do. Also asked me some technical questions like why HCM. So there was a common thread within all my 30-minute interviews. So more situational questions, which I use the STAR technique that we just spoke about. And sometimes they will stop you and try and ask you specific questions about what you say, because what you say has to sort of collate with your overall answer to that question. So they will be like, okay, so if it's problem solving skills, they will stop you if you're waffling too much and say, okay, so how did you actually solve this problem? Then that will just enable you to just go straight to the point and answer how you solved the problem. So they will literally just stop you, and because when they stop you, as I said, they're just trying to just make you answer the question, because again, like that's what you're there for. As much as you're talking to them about the whole situation, they just want to know the tasks, the action, and the result. Basically, that's the most important thing. So yeah, there was a common thread between all my interviews, but it was pretty relaxing.
Yeah, it sounds like they're really there to try and help and support you.
Yeah.
And it's a common thread, a common theme on this podcast as well. The candidates that sort of enjoyed it the most and had the two-way dialogue were the ones that have been successful.
Yeah.
So that in itself is a big gem. And for anyone who wants to practice interviews, we've got some resources on that as well. So if you head to our website, wearediverse.io, you can grab our interview guide, and we've got 10 common questions with me recording the questions, so you can answer out loud to really practice. So go ahead and do that. And well, you've got an exam next week, so we can't take too much longer. We're gonna have to wrap up soon. Let's touch on, I guess, to close, diversity and inclusion. That's clearly your thing. You're passionate about it. There's going to be employers listening, and there's going to be candidates listening as well. So I'll kind of give you the floor to take this one. But, what would you, and I guess you're going to learn a lot in this role, about best practices and so on. Specifically, I guess, in the application process and maybe early onboarding, what kind of advice would you have for employers to kind of really get this right? Because I think because of the events last year, there's now a really, really big focus on diversity, more so than ever before. And lots of employers are kind of failing maybe to do it authentically and attract a lot of diverse applicants and so on. So what are your kind of thoughts on that, on diversity and inclusion?
So for employers, I would say creating more initiatives, creating more perhaps networking events that are actually by so using black people, for example, that are actually run by maybe the black black employees within that company, because it's nice to see as a black person, I'm just talking from a black person experience, it's nice to see when you come for a networking event, it's nice to see that you actually see people of color actually explaining what the company does and how the company has benefited them as a person of color. It is very, very important because when you come to these networking events about diversity and inclusion, it's a bit, I mean, it can throw you off a bit when you don't see people, the same people like you, actually explaining what the company has done for them. And you see they're talking from a white person experience, but you'd want to have actual black people talking to you about what the company has done for them as black people or minorities in general, or underrepresented candidates in general. So that's what, when I go for networking events, that's what I want to see. I want to see an array I want to see a diverse panel. I don't want to see a panel of just white heads within the business or white employees within the business talking to me about diversity and inclusion. But I know that they have the expertise because that's their job. But from an experience point of view, from understanding the actual impact, it would be more effective for Black students or minorities in general that are applying to that company, to see that other people like them within that company are being embraced and are actually enjoying what they're doing within that company as a person, as a minority or a person of color. It's very, very important that's shown within that company, because it not only shows that you're showing that people are actually ensuring that they have that impact and they're being embraced and they're being accommodated, but it also shows that you have a diverse employee system. And so it shows it's like a two-way thing. And that's what I and a lot of my friends who are really, really interested in diversity and inclusion are looking for in companies when they have all of these networking events, talking to you about the company in general. When I see a couple of Black people or minorities on the panel, I'm really interested because I'm like, okay, wow, yeah, so they're really interested. I can see the dynamics, and that's why I particularly like Goldman, because for some of the networking events that I went to and some networking events at Warwick, there was this Warwick African Summit as well a few months back, and it was a really diverse panel. And people from different stages as well, not just to do with race, but to do with the level of the hierarchy in companies as well. You have analysts to heads of departments to managers. So all of those things, candidates will want to see different experiences from different different levels within the company. It's nice to see an analyst. It's nice to see a fellow associate. It's nice for them to talk to us about newcomers, about them as newcomers in the company, coming into the company and actually experiencing the whole culture of the company, because they're new as well. We're probably going to be new as well. So it would be nice to have that level of difference and level of distinction to sort of compare interests and really show that relationship, that dynamic between how managers and heads of department relate to analysts. And that's what I liked the most about Goldman, because I could see the relationships. They were literally having fun in front of us. So they were very comfortable. So analysts were, making jokes with heads of departments. They had that close relationship. So to see that diversity and to see how much, inclusion that they have within their company as a whole, with different people from different races and different levels within the company, most especially whether it be newcomers or people who have been there for years, it would be really nice to have an experience or have an insight on those different levels of expertise. That's what I'm looking for in a networking event or in a company that I'm willing to apply to.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, I'm sure the employers listening are very thankful for that. And I imagine over the next few years, there's going to be a cohort of people working at Goldman Sachs who probably all emailed, David on the same address with probably the same message, who are going to be joining you at Goldman Sachs. So thanks so much for sharing all that information. Really tangible, really actionable. So if you're listening now and you want to go get a job at Goldman Sachs, no exclusive. We've shown you exactly how to do it. So go ahead and make that happen. So Tito, just want to say a big thank you for joining the podcast. And yeah, all the best with your summer internship.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.